Hi friends! So it's been a minute, and by a minute I mean like a year since my travel videos have continued. But I was really missing Cell and V, so I'm gonna skip over my Vietnam trip and the days I spent in Paris to talk about my second workaway trip. So if you don't already know, workaway is this cultural exchange program. You pay a $42 subscription fee to access the host profiles, but once you match up with the host based on where you want to visit, your interests, what you want to do, whether that's farm work or childcare, you go over there and stay with them for free room and board. You just have to work like 20-ish hours a week. It depends on the host. But when I was with Cell and V, it was probably much less than that, and we just had fun together. So the way that Cell and V found me was pretty similar to how Nick found me. They looked at my profile picture and they thought I looked like a nice person. So they were like, hey, come visit. This was their first time reaching out and like being workaway host. So I probably should have been a little bit more suspicious, but I think even virtually back in October of 2019, we just had really good vibes. I don't know. It worked out well for me, so my blind faith and trust was good. After my trip to Asia, mid-December of 2019, I headed to Europe. It was a whole ordeal getting to France because I fainted on the plane, there were rail strikes, and the station I was supposed to leave from closed, but I got there. And when they came to pick me up, I was wearing a big heavy coat, my luggage, which was just my backpack and my tote, and it's really heavy, so I was like sitting kind of hunched, and I guess I looked like he said I looked like an old lady, so they walked right past me. And eventually they picked me up and I got settled in. Originally, I wanted to visit other countries while I was in Europe and go to Christmas markets and do the whole shebang, but the weather wasn't so good and the rail strikes were ongoing, so transportation was kind of iffy, and that was fine because I was more than happy to spend all my time with Cell and V and all the animals at their home. They had a couple of cats, a couple of dogs, a couple of horses, and a bunch of chickens. I really love spending time with them because they're so adorable. But recently V just told me that Vanity passed away as well as Sirio, so my heart goes out to her. So when I wasn't hanging out with the animals or just chilling by the fire, I was helping put epoxy on the walls, decorate for Christmas, make scratch boxes for the cats out of the cardboard that we had from building IKEA lockers, organizing wood, trying to fix the gutter, which kind of failed because I couldn't control the flame and hit a giant hole instead. But I fixed it with some other epoxy. We did a lot of singing and guitar playing, which is really fun since I hadn't been as creative that previous year since I was so busy, and just being in the peaceful countryside made it really relaxing, and I was really happy to get back in touch with that. And I have a bunch of songs that are really dumb that I wrote, and we sang stuff from Pitch Perfect or More Than Words. And I remember V telling me that she had never heard the guitar sound so warm before, and I was like, I thank you. In addition to that, we also did a lot of cooking, and I showed them how to make pancakes. So we had a little happy face, and V made me an R, and I also taught them how to make spring rolls, which were really fun. I think they enjoyed them. And they really wanted to try brownies, so I think earlier on I asked if they had any cocoa powder, but then they said they didn't like cocoa powder, which confused me, so I didn't bring it up again until the end. And apparently cocoa powder is like coconut, like shredded coconut powder, and I was like, oh, cocoa powder, coconut. You call chocolate like cocoa, cacao. And that's why there was this miscommunication. In the midst of all that, sometimes we would go on walks to the nearby town or the little forest. And when I would walk alone, it was really peaceful, although sometimes a bit scary because it gets really foggy or people see me and then they slow down their cars or like really stare at me if they're walking by, because I guess I'm probably the only Asian person they've ever seen in real life. that's how it is, I guess. And oh, that reminds me. So I was on one of my walks. It was a nice day and I was heading up to the church. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw like a couple of sheep like out on the road. And I was like, that's interesting. But I just carried on, walked up the stairs, and I was looking through the little keyhole because it's one of those old-fashioned ones that is pretty big, and so I could see the statue of Mary and the stained glass in the back. And then when I turned around, the sheep were there. Weird. And so I backed up a little and I was like, I don't like this. So I was starting to head to the side of the church, to the cemetery, because there's a really nice overlook. And as I was walking, they kept following me. You can see the camera shake because the bell rang and I got super freaked out.
Please stop following me.
That was me being pursued by some French sheep. That aside, Sel and V were kind enough to take me to different chateaus and towns on days that we weren't doing that many things. So I got to experience visiting, what was it? I don't speak French, so pardon my pronunciation, but we visited like Vézelay, Meneu, Dusy, Clancy, and the buildings are all really old. The churches have like, I don't know, I was just, I guess awestruck would be the best word. Because like, it's so beautiful. Aside from the little moments when we were chit-chatting at home, I really enjoyed seeing the ambiance and the vibe of Europe, I guess. Just wandering around. In general, when I'm traveling, wandering around and just looking at things is one of my favorite things to do. And speaking of lovely things, because we were in the French countryside, there's not a lot of light pollution, so looking at the stars was like incredible. And one night I was out in the garage connected to the house, and I was staring outside the glass window, just thinking about life, when I heard a lock, and I was like, I wonder if they locked the door. I just continued to stargaze. After a while, I was ready to go back to my room, and the door was locked. So the garage, like that wall, is connected to the bedroom wall. So I knocked, but I didn't knock really loud or anything. I knocked kind of softly, and I was like, hey, V and Sel, can you come open the door? But I guess I'm not that loud when I talk normally. And so they didn't hear me, they just heard the light tap. I kept knocking, but waited to see if I could hear anything from them. I tried texting V, but she was charging her phone in the living room, so she didn't see them. Yeah, so I was stuck outside for maybe 10 minutes, and it was really cold because I didn't have a jacket or anything. I was just in my PJs, and I was like, I guess if I had to spend the night out in the garage, there's some coats that I could use as blankets. Eventually, I guess they were creeped out by the knocks enough that Sel went to go check, and he finally opened the door and let me back inside. But yeah, I guess I scared the bejesus out of them, and I'm sorry, but I had to get in. Eventually, it was time to go home, and it was another nightmare because on the day that I was supposed to go, that train was canceled, so I had to leave earlier. There was like another protest going on, but eventually I managed to get on a train back to Paris, and it was really funny because Sel pretended to chase the train. I was really sad to leave, but I hope one day that I can go back to visit after COVID is not such a dominant part of all of our lives anymore. The journey back home was a long and very arduous one, but that could be a story for another day because I don't feel like talking about how I slept in airports for 3 days. Yeah. I guess that's the end of my travel series for now. Maybe I'll go back and do Paris and Vietnam. I had a couple of other workaway trips scheduled for Canada and Spain, but because of COVID, obviously I couldn't go. But I'm really grateful that my family's safe and healthy, and I hope yours is too. That's all for now, and I will catch you on the flip side.